know what's been so interesting to me is like I'm not I homelessness isn't my substantive area of expertise. I have been a palliative care nurse for 30 years, and my entry into palliative care was in the AIDS epidemic, which I
Mm.
just it just is so there's so many alignments with what I experienced as a nurse back then with, but I've always been like, who are the forgotten populations? That's
Mhm.
kind of and it's so like we have all these like participatory community-based projects going on, and people are saying to me palliative care, like like I work with all kinds of community-based agencies. Palliative care, why do we have to think about palliative care? I'm telling you that I have never seen like we were working with this group of 15, I want to call them peers, people with lived experience, outreach workers, all together, meeting, while we still meet, but like in our project every 2 weeks for almost 3 years, for you know 2 to 3 hours every 2 weeks. And we started that project with people saying, oh, what's palliative care and why is that important and blah blah blah, and I'm just like, stick with us. And we spent about 8 months of people just so angry about the system, and so angry at all the deaths that they're seeing and the opioid issues. And then one day, that whole advanced care planning thing happened because a woman with lived experience who was a worker in the drug user organization, she was telling this story of her friend who had died and all their belongings got tossed in the trash
Mm.
and everything. And I said, and it was just the perfect moment where I just said, you know, in palliative care, one of the things that we do is we do this thing called advanced care planning, where like we spend time talking with people about what's important and we write it down, and that gets sent to the hospital. And it was just like, she was like, you mean if we had something that we wrote down and we made sure that people would listen to that? And I said, yeah,
Mhm.
they will.
Mhm.
They have
Mhm.
to. And then we had all the hospital social workers got all excited because they're going, we don't know who to call. We don't know. But the big thing that came out in that project was, at the end of the day, people said, I cannot believe that for the first time in all the years I've been working outreach or in housing, I feel so much hope for our clients. And
Mm.
that's because we we get, like, people who work in palliative care like a dog with a bone, right? It's like we're going to do everything that we can to make this person's quality of life and quality of living good. And it's been a very interesting kind of journey into that. And some people get referred into that palliative care service and they get discharged because they get their SDH needs met, and they actually are gonna, they've got housed, they've got like, and it's like good.
Yeah. Yeah.